If you're on Twitter, I refuse to call it X, though saying people are on X is kind of funny in its own way, you're probably aware of the long-form content that they're rolling out. If I'm not mistaken, Tucker Carlson was their first big get, but they've since brought in some other folks. Elon and company just added Tulsi Gabbard, Jim Rome, and Don Lemon to the roster. Jim Rome primarily talks about sports, and from what I can tell, that's what he'll be doing on Twitter as well. Tulsi Gabbard is a natural fit there, as she's very much of Elon Musk's ilk. And by that I mean she's extremely online. Unlike Elon Musk though, Tulsi Gabbard is pretty much exclusively popular online. Of the three, Don Lemon is the oddball choice. In case you didn't know, Don Lemon worked at CNN from 2006 to 2003. Lemon started out as a correspondent and contributor, but got his own primetime show in 2014. In 2023, he became the co-host of a morning show before he was unceremoniously let go just a few months later. During his time at CNN, Lemon had been a vocal critic of President Trump, and was very much in the establishment Democrat camp during his years at CNN. So you have a man who is hated online, who worked for a network that is reviled, whose ideological camp is definitely not in vogue on websites like Twitter. So how did he land a job on this website? Well, let's talk about how he got fired from CNN first. On the morning show that I mentioned earlier, Lemon said that presidential candidate Nikki Haley was past her prime, and proceeded to argue with his female co-hosts. This was just one of many of Lemon's controversial statements. As the Associated Press reports, the lousy vibes were beginning to cost CNN advertising sales, and some potential guests were becoming reluctant to appear on CNN this morning, said a CNN staffer familiar with the decision to oust Lemon but not authorized to speak publicly. Some people close to Lemon have suggested that the morning job was essentially a demotion for him, and he was given little support to succeed. Lemon said he learned of his firing from his agent. After Lemon's firing, Nikki Haley called it a great day for women everywhere. Misogyny, genuine or alleged, can get you ousted from the circles that Lemon was in, or at least it can serve as a useful pretext if they were looking to get rid of you anyways. For what it's worth, he was accused of worse things behind the scenes, and apparently was not well liked by his colleagues. But, as the saying goes, when one door closes, another opens. And ousting from a network like CNN, especially when you ostensibly get fired for saying controversial things, can get you clout in other circles. In fact, since getting canned, Lemon seems to have changed in a few ways. According to Mediaite, Lemon's news diet seems to have changed since leaving CNN. Lemon said that, since leaving corporate media, I cut the cord. I have an extensive, eclectic streaming palette now. Fellow Travelers on Showtime, PBD podcast, it's very conservative. The Ben Shapiro Show, I want to hear his take on Israel. Pivot, of course, Piers Morgan Uncensored, very real, authentic conversations you don't get in corporate media. Pod Save America, obviously. The Daily, every single day. Smartless, the best. The Adam Friedland Show, smart, irreverent, funny. Download the Chet Hanks episode for evidence. Now that's a pretty wide range of views represented there. Pod Save America is a podcast of former Obama staffers that most would consider to be establishment Dems. But what caught my attention were the online right outlets. Ben Shapiro and the Patrick Bet-David podcast. Is Don Lemon setting himself up for an ideological shift here? Well, Krystal Ball seems to think so. Here's her husband describing her thoughts on Don Lemon's future.
When Don Lemon got axed from CNN, it was almost immediately that she said to me, "Oh, he has an opportunity here. He has a lane that's just waiting for him and calling his name." That lane is, I, Don Lemon, am now the gay black guy who is MAGA curious, who is more conservative now than I was before, who is, oh, now I'm all about free speech, and now I can see when I was in the belly of the beast, I was blinded, and now I'm out of the beast, and I can see just how rotten and disgusting and decrepit that system is, and I'm here to verify everything you believe, conservative viewer. She called it.
I'm pretty sure she said that in a video because I remember watching it, but I couldn't find it, so we're going to have to rely on Kyle's testimony here. Could it be that Don Lemon is now trying to become a mega grifter? Kyle seems to think so. This video was literally titled, "Don Lemon Goes Full Grifter in Sad Attempt to Stay Relevant." When Don Lemon got hired at Twitter, he did say, "I know now more than ever that we need a place for honest debate and discussion without hall monitors. This is just the beginning, so stay tuned." He talked about how he was canceled from CNN, and he called Twitter the biggest space for free speech in the world. This is the sort of rhetoric that mega media types, oftentimes insincerely, engage in. Anytime any talking head starts to change their rhetoric or changes their mind on something important, they inevitably face this accusation. Anna Kasparian got called a grifter when she started to push back against some of the trans rhetoric. Dave Rubin got called a grifter when he left the left. Jimmy Dore gets called a grifter all the time, especially when he starts to warm up to right-wing populists. And of course, Tim Pool is thought to be a grifter because he used to be on the left and is now whatever the hell he is. Grifter just might be the most overused term on the internet. Matthew Dimitri once called me a grifter after I called him out for plagiarizing me. I hardly make any money doing this. Then again, he just called me a grifter. He never said I was good at it. It's funny to hear Krystal Ball, of all people, throw this accusation around, given what her politics used to be. I'm about to say some things that won't seem related, but trust me, they are. My family does not watch my videos. That's right, I'm too boring and insipid even for my own loved ones. I actually never wanted them to know about this channel. That sort of happened by accident. They probably also don't watch my videos because they have no idea who the people are who I regularly talk about. They don't know who Cenk Uygur or Kyle Kulinski are, and they don't care. Normies typically don't. But there is one person who I talk about who they have heard of, Krystal Ball. I'm the black sheep of my family in a lot of ways, including in my politics. You see, most of the members of my family are MSNBC-type liberal Democrats. So, naturally, they know who Krystal Ball is because she used to be a liberal Democrat who co-hosted The Cycle on MSNBC. Also, let's be real here. She has the sort of name you'd remember after hearing it once. Like most hosts on MSNBC at the time, Krystal was a big defender of the Obama administration. She once had a monologue where she defended the Obama-era drone program and said that he could be trusted with it, whereas Republicans couldn't. She even ran as a Democrat for Congress in 2010. There was a BS controversy about her during the race involving some images from a party that, while pretty innocuous, I'm not actually sure I can show on YouTube. This gave her race attention that it probably wouldn't have otherwise gotten, and that actually put her on the media map. She started to change during the latter half of Obama's second term, though. She became more skeptical of the Democratic Party, arguing in 2014 that Hillary Clinton should not run for president. The Cycle was canceled in 2015, and she left the network. By 2017, she was a full-blown populist progressive. She eventually went on the Hills Rising, and of course left to start Breaking Points with her co-host Sagar Anjali, where they spit out idiotic populist talking points. So, did Krystal Ball see an opening here? She was a middling cable news host doing the whole defend the Democratic Party thing, and she eventually got fired from that. Did she look at the new media landscape and realize that she could be a populist progressive star? Is Krystal Ball a grifter? The answer is, I have no idea. I have no idea how much money she made as a cable news host versus how much she makes now. Nor do I care. She did allegedly run a scam pack, but that's not what we're talking about here. I have no doubt that there are people online who take certain positions and say certain things because they think that will get them paid. But it's pretty difficult to know any individual person's motives. And this goes for all the supposed grifters. I have no idea what their motives are, so I don't go around accusing them of being bought off. Calling someone a grifter is just character assassination. It's not an argument. It's a way to avoid making an argument. I just find it interesting that grifter accusations involving ideological shifts usually go in one direction. People usually only accuse others of grifting when the supposed grifter moves away from the accuser's ideological camp. Yet, when the same accuser sees someone from a different ideological camp start to mimic their own rhetoric, they usually describe that person as waking up, getting red-pilled, or some other stupid cliche of that nature. This is why Kyle can accuse Don Lemon of being a grifter, yet knowing full well what his wife's politics used to be.
Krystal Ball's so stupid. Oh, she's so stupid.
Doesn't give a second thought about her moving further to the populist left. Ironically, I think that a lot of these ideological shifts and the subsequent accusations of grifting have the same root cause. We are emotional animals. Our hearts tell us to go one way, and our brain rationalizes why we ought to do that. People who have strong political convictions are almost certainly very emotionally invested in those convictions. Christopher Hitchens has discussed multiple times how he was positively heartbroken when he realized that Marxism was ideologically bankrupt. As he wrote in God is Not Great, those of us who had sought a rational alternative to religion reached a terminus that was comparably dogmatic. What else was to be expected of something that was produced by those close cousins of chimpanzees? Infallibility? Thus, dear reader, if you have come this far and found your own faith undermined, as I hope, I'm willing to say that to some extent I know what you are going through. There are days when I miss my old convictions as if they were an amputated limb. So it's not strange that so many of these ideological shifts often accompany some alienation from within the tribe. That's to be expected. It's certainly been true in my life and my ideological shifts. And given that we're emotional animals, it's not surprising when people see someone leaving their tribe, they detect treachery or ill intent, whereas they welcome a new convert with open arms. Again, I have no doubt there are grifters out there, but unless you can actually prove it, you shouldn't go around accusing other people of being bought off. Take their statements at face value and refute them if you can. Otherwise, be quiet and refrain from calling them a grifter.